strength, power, confidence. We are not here to be the victims of sexual abuse. We're here to disrupt the energy around sexual abuse, helping victims and survivors recreate their story to live an empowered life.
I'm Officer Borders.
And I'm Firefighter Pierce.
Join us as we raise the roof and open the doors to new possibilities. Personal redemption starts here.
Welcome to the Disruptive Response Podcast.
It's your time to shine.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for listening into our Disruptive Response podcast. Today, we are going to be kicking it off on making the uncomfortable comfortable. What does that mean to you guys? It is just as simple as it is. It's the topic of sexual abuse, and for that matter, abuse in general, and making the conversation comfortable. And I'm going to share a little story, even just from this last couple of weeks, that will help you to sort of have a little bit more understanding around where it's the appropriate time to talk about your story and when it's, times where it's just going to be super awkward, and we'll help you to bridge that gap to build your own confidence.
It sounds awesome. Yeah, definitely. It took me a long time to get comfortable being uncomfortable, but now that I am, it's very liberating, very freeing, helps me grow, helps me heal. So yeah, I want to hear your story, Grant.
Yeah, no problems at all. And hey guys, if you're listening right now, thank you so much for joining in. And, this is our episode 3, so if you're still with us, we so much appreciate that you guys are just still sticking by us. So where do I start? So this was interesting. I'm not sure when it was. It was last week, or maybe the week before sometime. And after we'd done that first podcast, I had one of my bosses who was an overtimer for the day come in, and it's social media. He found out about our podcast somehow. Now, it was really interesting. He started doing the old questioning, what's that like? So we're all sitting in the truck and we're driving somewhere. So to paint the picture, in the truck, America might be a bit different, but in New Zealand and Oz, we have 4 of us as a crew in the truck. So my boss is in the front. My 2 crewmates, one was driving, one was in the back with me. And he started doing the old question, hey, what's that podcast that you're doing? And I said, it's on sexual abuse and helping people move forward. And he to be fair, he was, I kind of felt it made him a little bit uncomfortable, but just because he kicked off the conversation, he realized he couldn't just stop. So he kept going with the conversation. He's like, yes, so and I can't remember exactly word for word, but what I remember being around was he was like, so what exactly is it about? And I said, well, it's helping people to either come forward in their life, or if they have, allowing them to really build their confidence up to go out and accomplish what they want in life with a new, found confidence. And he's like, the thing that I really thought was interesting was, now, I will never know what his perspective was of me telling him that, but I can only guess at a purely, or assume at a guess, that, because his next question was like, I kind of got the vibe that he sort of thought that was, who was I to speak about that topic? And because it was something along the lines of like, have you got experience in that department or something? And I said, yeah, I was sexually abused when I was younger. And he sort of was like, it was a little bit awkward, but at the same time, again, he wanted to just, he's like, that's really good, sort of what you're doing. And then it was sort of just after that, it was pretty much the conversation ended, and it was just fascinating to me that I was having this conversation with my younger brother over in Perth, and he was saying to me, because I didn't really think about it, he was just saying to me, like, did you ever think that maybe just because he's probably seen you since he's known you, just from the few times I've worked with him, he probably just sees you as this, like, buff guy, confident, blah, 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 and probably never assumed that it would have happened to you, and that's probably why he did the questioning, because he's kind of like, who are you to talk about this, whereas he just probably never ever assumed that you'd been, a victim to it when you were younger. And I was like, shit, I've never thought of it from that perspective. And yeah, he was just like, you should bring this up in one of your podcasts because this could be, like a relevant topic, because a lot of people, and this is where, I share light on that, because another thing with it too was my other two crew members were just like, I think it's such a taboo topic that they didn't even know how to, because generally we always intermingle as a crew, but that was just a topic they just, they didn't say anything. And
Right.
I mean, absolutely, that doesn't bother me whatsoever. Like, they didn't even have to, but it was just, it goes back to that making the uncomfortable comfortable. This is a topic, if you're listening or watching us, it's going to be something that if you ever grow that confidence and you want to, reach out to us, it's not about making this a comfortable topic out in our society, because, you're basically hitting your head against a brick wall, thinking we can try and change that. But what we are aiming to do is that this topic can be a very, very easy topic to speak about when you're coming to people like us that are very open and confident about speaking about it, because you're wanting to come forward and be, I don't like using that word victim, you're a survivor, and you're just wanting to, create so much more self-esteem in your life, then this will be the space for you to be able to just go and take that to another level. So, that story I just highlighted because it's just a topic. Now, I didn't feel uncomfortable at all talking about that subject. It may have made them feel a little bit like, this is awkward. But for me, I actually found it really funny because it's just not an awkward subject anymore. And the fascinating thing is, I know probably a lot of my fellow firefighters know about it, and only one has reached out because he's like, I heard you're doing your podcast, and he's like, I still haven't checked it out yet. So the fact that he'd heard about it, it's like that old, the rumors get around real quick, and
definitely.
And so it is what it is, right? And this is what I love about what we are creating. It's going to be a space again for us for people to come forward. So thanks, Jelena. Yeah, go for it.
Well, I love that. I love that people are hearing about this podcast, because first of all, that's amazing. That's what we want, because we want this to be able to reach other people, reach more people. And the more people that talk about it, that share it, the more survivors out there that are going to find us and be able to, maybe none of this will resonate with them. Maybe our personalities, our voices, they're just like, that's not for me. But for the people who it is for, that it's going to be for, it's going to be something that they need. So I think it's awesome that, like your firefighter crew, they're talking about it, they're telling each other, and they're going and watching it. And that's amazing. So I want to go back to a few things that you said, because it's really important. So like your boss that asked these questions to you, in the fire truck with your crew members in the back, just like silent. You said he probably never expected you to be a survivor of sexual abuse, because that's the stigma, especially men don't talk about their experiences or come forward as often as women do, because it's the whole masculine society and all this bullshit that we've created, and the bullshit ways that we've told men that they have to, they have to act and they have to behave. And so the fact that he can look at a strong man who's got his life together, who's accomplished, and say like, oh, wait, this has happened to you, and you're just casually talking about it in front of other people, like on YouTube, on a podcast, and the fact that it just shows that you can go through things and you can come out the other end, and have healing and purpose and power in your life, and you can take that control back like you have. But it's just, I get the same thing all the time too, where when I tell my story, people they said, I never suspected that happened to you. And I was like, well, why is that? And you just seem to have your life so together, which I don't, by the way. I don't have my life together. I don't think any of us truly, truly do. We have some.
Everyone's got their problems.
Yeah, but they're like, you're just always so happy, and you just seem so positive, and you blah blah blah. And I'm like, so what are we supposed to do? Just because we were victims, we're just supposed to sit in a corner and cry and like, poor me, whatever. no, like we got our asses up and we took charge and we made the choice to stop being a victim and become a survivor, which is a very tough thing to do, but it's a choice that we all have. So I think it's great that you pointed out that he never suspected that that would happen to you. And there's people who are surprised, but and as far as him having the questions, I think that's good because it's creating a space for other people, because those crew members that were silent, or him that had questions, or these other people who are listening, we don't know if they have had a similar experience in their life. And if so, maybe they're like, oh, and they're not ready to talk to anybody yet, but maybe down the road they'll be ready to talk to somebody. Or they're silent because it's uncomfortable for them, even though it wasn't uncomfortable for you anymore. Even, there was a point where it was very uncomfortable for, I think, both of us to talk to certain people about, but we've worked through that, and hence why we're doing this podcast to help other people get to the place that we were able to get to. But yeah, it's uncomfortable, but even though they didn't say anything, I'm sure wheels are turning, and it's good. And that's what we're trying to do, is disrupt the energy around these conversations. And, it's not necessarily like the conversations with other people, because honestly, if people haven't been personally affected by sexual abuse, they can do their best to understand, and they can do their best to show support and empathy. And I believe, Grant, that we'll probably do a future episode where we do speak to people, to family and friends and coworkers and people who haven't experienced this, but they want to know how to support their friends and loved ones who have experienced this. But more importantly than trying to get them to understand how to respond, we want to respond to these conversations in a way that if you are a survivor of sexual abuse, or even if you're still feeling like a victim, you can come and talk to us. And that's why we created this podcast, our Facebook community, where people can come and have conversations with us, and we can get down to the nitty gritty of just being real with each other, and just doing that peer support. And so I think it's awesome that they asked you about that. I think it's awesome that they were a little uncomfortable. I think it's fantastic that you were totally comfortable being uncomfortable in that situation. And yeah, that's awesome. And we had this is only our third episode right now, and even after just our first episode, we had complete strangers message us, and saying, I've really been looking for something like this, people I can talk to, and I'm glad that I found that. So, and I don't share this to toot our own horn or anything, it's not me and Grant being like, oh, look at us. We want people to find this podcast, this community, to bring them in, to love them, to support them, and to just go through all this stuff together and disrupt this energy and silence together. And so thank you so much to anybody who's been supportive and who's been sharing these videos and these episodes. And it's just phenomenal. I don't even know what else to say. It's phenomenal. So, we're going to get even more uncomfortable, but once you get comfortable being uncomfortable, that's growth freaking happens. And yeah.
So true, man. I just love for me, even just listening to you then, it just reminded me that what this is really going to allow is, even for, and we just sort of touched on it earlier before we jumped on the podcast, this will be something that, because we've got so much radical confidence around this topic, even for parents out there, I was just thinking about, even when you're saying fellow firefighters that are just naturally, it's just that they're going to find out, it's over my social media, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But we just don't know who this, fellow colleagues, friends, family, who it might have happened to their child, and they have no idea how to have a conversation around this topic. And it's so difficult for them, that this might be the space for them, because we are confident that I know 100% that if someone wanted to reach out to me and just go, dude, I have no idea how to I don't know how to like approach this subject with my child and that sort of stuff. I know without failure, I would confidently be able to sit there and talk to them about how to approach that subject and how to normalize it with their child and that sort of thing, because it's I can't imagine what that would be like for a parent to have to go down that conversation road if it has happened to their child, or they're suspecting that it's happening, but anything in that category. That would be, yeah. I don't even want to imagine what it'd be like, but I just know that again, this is just in another space as well for them to be able to reach out to us and say, hey, this is what's been going on. I have no idea where to start, and we can sort of direct them and how to go about that sort of thing.
Definitely. I actually had a friend request that we do that. A friend whose child was sexually abused, and they don't know how to handle it. I mean, they're doing the best that they can. They're doing everything they can, but like emotionally, they don't know how to handle it, how to talk to him. And you know what? And again, let's point out, Grant, that we are not licensed therapists. We're not licensed anything. We are just human beings who have experienced firsthand sexual abuse, and both of ours was childhood sexual abuse. But we acknowledge that there are many forms of sexual abuse, sexual assault, all ages, all ethnicities, all sexes, everything. And so we are not claiming to be licensed therapists. We are not professionals here. However, we're just sharing our experience and trying to help other people from our experience. And I believe that that's where the being comfortable with being uncomfortable comes in, because I mean, this is never a comfortable topic for anybody, but the fact that we've taken something that's so shitty that happened to us, that should have never happened to us, and we got comfortable in our own skin with talking about it, with healing, because we did have to work through those processes. You're not going to just go from this happening to you to all of a sudden being okay talking about it. There's steps that you have to work through, and that's what we want to help people, guide people to be able to do. But it's just coming from our experience and wanting to help others. And so if anybody has any questions for us, there is no hesitation. Like, do not hesitate to reach out to either of us. You can reach out to us on the Disruptive Response Facebook page. Grant and I both monitor that page. We both see the messages. We can jump into a group chat with you right there. It's completely confidential. We will never, ever share any of that with anybody. We also have the Disruptive Responders Facebook community that you can also, that's where we want to be able to have a community to provide peer support, and not just us for you guys, but everybody contributing, everybody having conversations and giving different sharing their experiences. And something that I might share might not work for somebody, but something that you share might work. So people can pull from like, oh, well, I think I might be interested in trying that, or I don't like that, but I like this. And so that's where we want to have this community. And then also, on our website, disruptiveresponse.com, you can send us a message on there too, and we'll get back to you. But we don't want this to be a one-way conversation. We want to be able to know what you guys want to hear, so we can share our experiences with you to answer those questions.
Yeah. I think that also raises the topic of having guests on this podcast, because we don't just want it to be about our stories continually. Like, I mean,
right.
Already that's something that there probably be areas where our story might be relevant to bring it into the conversation, but having guests, as we've both discussed, is going to be the next level for us to allow, because there's so many different varieties of people out there that we might not be able to relate to you, but someone else's story may relate to you and help you build that confidence in your own life, whatever it may be. So I think, Jelena, that was it the guy that you were telling me about with his the child or whatever? I think that in itself will be that would be the perfect opportunity to have him as a guest and coming on and sharing his story and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah, definitely. One of my good friends is a former firefighter and has experienced, unfortunately, his own personal experience and with a child, one of his children. So he sees both sides of that, and it's unfortunate, and he's more than willing to come on and talk about it. And again, for anybody listening who's uncomfortable right now because it's like, oh my gosh, they're talking about sexual abuse, we get it. And if you're still listening, we appreciate it, because we're not here to have like bad energy and to sit here and cry as we share our stories. We're here to uplift you and motivate you to heal and to grow, and to feel empowered that you can make whatever changes in your life you want to. But I think, especially for the men, and having my friend come on, that's another man, share, like, I think it's going to be crazy empowered. Like, I just want to be like a fly on the wall and listen to the two of you talk, because I think that having a guy and guy have these conversations is just going to be, like, Grant, nobody does that. Just like when you shared when they were asking you questions and they were silent, like, men do not have conversations about this enough. There are some, but it does not happen enough. And so I do look forward to that. And for anybody who is wanting to share their story, and you don't have to go into detail about what happened to you, but we're more interested in showing how you came out of that. What did you do to grow? What did you do to heal? What did you do? Like, what made you feel empowered? What worked for you and what didn't? Because that's what people need to hear, is how can they go from where they are right now, and what steps can they take to get to a place where they feel whole again, and they don't feel ashamed, they don't feel embarrassed, they don't feel unworthy. And that's where, like, these stories matter and these stories help. And if anybody has a story that they are willing to share, we would love for you to reach out to us so we can schedule a time for you to just hop on, these Skype chats with us, and let your story be the one thing that helps somebody else.
Oh my God. I'm actually super, I don't want to say super excited, like, to hear his story, but I'm looking forward to having him on the podcast. As you said, perfectly, like, having two guys talk about this subject is going to really shatter the stereotype around, men actually having this conversation. And I just think, if nothing else, having a conversation now, considering I've never met the guy in my life, this will also be just another window into showing that, like, just two guys never met each other, we can actually just talk about this easily. And again, just bring more awareness around that. It's not that difficult. I mean, because as you say, like, it's men and women. It's probably just that little bit more difficult in the men's space, because it's just, again, it's that masculine thing. We can't talk about your feelings type thing, which is not actually masculine anyway. That's not talking about your feelings. That's just wounded masculine. So, or the macho ego, whatever you want to call it. So, I think this will be a really, really good space for our listeners to hear us just generalizing around the topic and completely normalizing it, or as we call, disrupting the energy around it.
Yeah, and like I hope that we're doing a good job at explaining to our listeners, like, what we mean by disruptive. And that's, I mean, really, if you think about it, however things are being done in your life, whoever's listening, like, in your life, whatever way you're going about it, or people around you are going about it, whatever, if you're feeling like crap, then it's because that way's not working, and you need to disrupt that energy, whether it's bad energy, whether it's you don't have a support system, whether it's you feel silenced, whether it's you're ashamed, you feel unworthy, or however the heck you might be feeling. You're valid to feel that way. It's normal to feel that way, but you can't stay that way. You have to disrupt that. And the best way to disrupt that is to find people that you can connect to and to start working through that. We've talked about therapy, all this other stuff, and that's not what this is. This is just peer support. And, Grant, like, for me, it took me, I'm in my late 30s, and it took me a long time to get to a place where I'm comfortable and I can talk about this. And I know not everybody can talk about it, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to actually speak it yet, but you can still join our community and you can still listen. You can still read the other people's stories. You can still be that fly on the wall if you need to be. There's nothing wrong with you can join the conversation and just be that fly on the wall if that's what you need to do right now. So,
yeah. Oh, I love that. That's such a great awareness around it. It is definitely that, like, we don't have to talk about that at all. Literally, just keep it to yourself. Just maybe this will just be that space that can, as you say, like, and it raises a valid point too, because I just think about it, like, I'd had people share a story with me when I hadn't shared before, and it was just no chance that I was going to say anything, because it was just, no way. So, and again, and that same thing, because I'm the same age as you, I'm 37 in July. It's only, what's the date today?
You're older than me.
Yes.
I'm younger.
I love it. I reckon the 30s has been like the best years of my life.
Oh yeah.
It's 37 on the 9th of July, so it's coming around quick.
It's coming up.
Oh yeah. So I don't even know what I'm doing for it yet. It's can't exactly travel over to Oz or do anything with my twin brother for our birthday. So looks like I'm locked out in NZ. So, but at least we haven't got locked down because we've got rid of COVID. So that's a bonus. Yeah, I don't think there's much more that I can really, touch on that, other than the fact that you just said that, you're 36 and it's taken that long for you to build the confidence up around it. And I would say the same. Like, really, it was only at 30 that's when everything radically shifted for me, and then it was just like this snowball effect where confidence just grew through the roof. And the more times that I just have a conversation with someone. Now, when I say this, if you're listening now, this is not just a conversation I just willy-nilly just blurted out to every single person, unless I felt it was relevant or I could hear something in them speaking that I found it was a valid point for me to actually raise it up, because I could see there was something going on for them that they needed to hear my story. And it's that old saying, be the leader and go first, and you allow others to actually, share something. And 9 times out of 10, every time that I did, they'd end up sharing something about their life that I'd be like, yep, my intuition was correct.
Right.
And if nothing else, when they did share their story, it'd be like a day later or whatever, they'd be like, thanks so much, Grant, for listening to me and not judging me for all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, it's not my space to judge you, man. I'm just so grateful that you could actually share your story with me, because at the end of the day, you might be okay with it yourself, but it's not until you can mirror that with somebody else. And interesting enough, mirroring is actually a new technique that I'm learning to be a coach, which is helping people, not as a therapist style, but coaching is more like helping people to, if they want to have more success in their life, whether it's, they're stuck on something that's just stopping them from moving forward and chasing their goals or whatever. But it's all just around models and concepts around how to help them break that pattern down to go, oh, this is what, what's been getting in the way. And mirroring was one of those techniques where sometimes what we do with, just quickly, I'll finish off that mirroring, which is where just mirroring so that they share their story, and rather than going, oh, come on, mate, toughen up. Now, that's a very wounded, masculine, very macho. It's a really shit way of helping people to move forward in their life. And it's that famous old, like, you hear guys do it. I don't know about women, but you hear guys do it when, they're broken up with a missus or whatever. Their mates will be like, oh, come on, mate, let's go out and we'll, pick you up another route. Like, get you over and it's kind of like, it's just, it's such a bad way of going about helping your mates out. At the end of the day, just be a mate and just say, mate, that sounds shit, but I totally got your back. Like, just allow them to be in that space. And again, mirroring, when you're touching on that topic, the basis of mirroring is acknowledging them for where they're currently at. Now, whatever it is, whatever's happened, whatever, it's just mirroring them on that, acknowledging that, seeing them there and there for what it is. because the moment you do that, it allows them to actually, there's a thing what we call, it's called emotional looping. So often what happens in painful experiences, and it can be like trivial, what we can consider trivial things, to full-blown like things that trigger PTSD. A lot of them stems around, if it's too painful to deal with it, what we do is we try to not let it into our life, so to speak, and so we do emotionally looping, and that's often what PTSD looks like. It's flashbacks, but looping. But when they've just done a study in a research showed that when they got videos that people would watch, and it was like, traumatizing video, but not real, but just enough to stir up fright in them, and their stress response was through the roof. But the moment they had their loved one beside them when they watched that film, holding their hand, their stress response literally decreased. Like, it was like 50% decrease. Wow. I can't remember the stats on it, but it was just to show that when mirroring is not just mirroring them and acknowledging them for where they're at, but if there's a painful event that's happened in their life, now whether it's a breakup, whether it's a traumatic incident that's happened in their life, when we just acknowledge them for what's happened, it allows them and just say, so how are you feeling? Like, and they're like, oh, geez, I'm feeling bloody, wherever the sensation is in their body. By allowing them to feel into that allows them to. So there's an old saying that whatever is in the way is the way. And when you allow them to feel that pain, and you're there to actually just acknowledge them, and it's amazing when you allow them to go through that. It stirs up all kinds of stuff, but they actually go right through it. And then all of a sudden there's just this new space of like aliveness that comes through the other side of it. And that's all that mirroring literally is. And that's what's happened in the past for me, is because I mirrored them and allowed them just to be in that space. And often it would bring up pain for them because they would speak about it openly. It would bring up stuff for them, but just allowing them to go through whatever it was, and then they'd come out the other side, and it was just a new sense of aliveness, and that aliveness then allows for a little bit more confidence down the track as well.
Yeah.
I hope that kind of gave a little bit of sense around the whole thing.
It totally did, and I mean, I love all of that, but especially like you said, that it really just takes someone to go first, I mean, I would never just be like in a casual conversation, like, oh, by the way, I had this happen to me when I was a kid, but when you have that intuition that somebody, needs that deeper connection, needs to hear your story, or when they share their story, I mean, that's how I got the confidence to share my story, was, listening to other people share theirs, reading books about other people sharing their stories. And so it really just takes, it takes one person to start that, and a ripple effect. And so I'm hoping that, we can be that mirror for people who need it. And we can be that ear to say, like, to acknowledge that they went through that, to acknowledge that, to validate however they're feeling right now, and to just be that friend while they're navigating whatever it is that they're navigating right now. So yeah, like, guys, if you're listening or watching, we want to be that mirror for you. We want to be that peer support for you, and we hope that the more that we share our stories, the more that, and not just like, when I say share our story, we're not just talking about like what happened to us, because what happened to us could have been one incident. It could have been, in my case, many incidents over time. That's not the focus here. The focus isn't on what happened to us. The focus is on what we did after that happened to us. And that's what we want to share with you guys. And I don't know. Hopefully it'll help somebody and give them the confidence to go out and help somebody else. And can you imagine if we just disrupt this energy, all this crappy feelings about sexual abuse, where people can start talking about it and saying, you know what, I'm not ashamed anymore. I'm not fearful anymore. My story matters. And I'm going to teach other people that it's not okay for this to happen to their bodies, but it is okay to heal from it, to grow from it, to speak out about it, and to empower other people. Like, can you imagine if one person becomes empowered and empowers somebody else and empowers somebody else? Like,
yeah,
that's the response that we're looking for.
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's exactly what it's all about. And it's amazing to me, like even just chatting to my younger brother, even just him, never experienced it, but had just, it's so easy to have this conversation with him. I mean, in saying that, his family too, but it's even removing the story around even our stories, like they're just a story at the end of the day. Like,
yeah,
it's like story equals event equals action, and whatever story we create becomes a new event for a new action that we take in our life. And you've just stated that beautifully. So, guys, I mean, if you're listening in, we were at a stage where now episode 3, we're like, okay, we're kind of, if I'm brutally honest, we were kind of stuck. Like, where do what direction do we make this flow now? So, if you're listening or you have been listening, we really want to hear your takeaways. If there's something that you feel like you want to hear us talk about, this is, we just want it to be about our topics. We want it about something that might help improve your life. And it doesn't have to, we won't share your name about if it's something you want us to talk about. It can just be something that you think might be a relevant topic, whatever, and throw it at us. This is what it's all going to be about. So I think also this will be a great little short podcast, because the last one went for 50 minutes. So that may have been a little bit too long for a lot of listeners. So, I feel probably the 20, 30-minute window, that might be a lot easier for people just to, chew on that time. Yeah.
Well, that's the perfect place to end. And people reach out to us, please. Like Grant and I want to hear from you guys. We want to connect with you. We want to hear your thoughts. And even if it's something that we've said that you don't agree with, that's okay. Let us know, and we can have conversations, about that too. So, I hope everybody has a really awesome week ahead, and we'll be back next week for episode 4. So
episode 4.
Make sure to subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on iTunes, on Spotify. The show is still pending approval on iHeartRadio, but it'll be on there soon. So you can subscribe on those podcast outlets, and you can also go subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Disruptive Response Podcast on YouTube. And leave us comments, leave us your thoughts. Give us a review, because that your review helps other people to find this podcast. So we want other people to find this, so that way hopefully we can help them and grow this community and just all empower each other. So, all right.
Awesome. And if you didn't say it already, Jelena, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel if you're finding this is like, I don't know where, like my finger's pointing at wherever that might be on the screen, but I think it might be on that side.
Who knows?
But hit the subscribe if it's something you're enjoying. Thank you so much again, and we will see you on episode 4. Any last words, Jelena?
Nope, that's it. Everybody have a good week.
Okay, see you guys.
Okay, bye.